You may say, how do you know for sure that all those pictures of him with Loree McBride are uh, are fake? You know, all the internet pictures. Well, first of all, I've known Brent for 22 years, and he's always been a rather private person about his love life. And that to me shows that he has depth of feeling for his woman. That's why he's like that. He's gotten less private than he was back in 1990, but he's always been private. Um, when he talked to me on the phone in 1991, 92, and 93, the voice that I heard was an exact match to the voice I heard in his album Old Yellow Eyes Is Back. And also, I just watched a YouTube video of a July 1996 appearance he made, and his voice that I heard on the phone was an exact match to that. Exact match. I have a very good ear for voices because I used to be a singer in my 20s. I was very good. I was so good that I was as good as Brent. I'm not that way now, but I used to be. So I've got a really good ear for voices. This is how I see Brent-Spiner. He's humble, committed to his woman, a genius in intelligence. He has depth. And as a Christian, he's kind of unorthodox. He didn't become a born-again Christian until September 2011. And whatever kind of Christian he is, I think I'm largely responsible for because I'm the one who led him to the Lord. I've never, ever tried to dictate to him how he should practice his Christianity. So he may not even be, he might say stuff about horoscopes as a born-again Christian and not even realize that there are pastors out there that believe horoscopes are from the devil. So if you're going to say, well, how can he be a Christian if he's going around saying, oh, you're a Leo or he's a big joker. But I haven't really discussed with him that I believe horoscopes are satanic or from the devil because it's not a big issue with me. So it's, I'm not that worried about it. Even after I led him to the Lord, the men on my marriage list would describe some people as being an Aquarian or all this stuff. So I just let it go. It's not a major issue with me. You say, but he drinks alcoholic beverages. And you say he's a born-again Christian. There are Christians that drink alcoholic beverages, and Brent-Spiner is one of them. Yes, he's a born-again Christian who drinks alcoholic beverages. In fact, many of the men on my marriage list, they can't be on my marriage list, I believe, unless they're a born-again Christian. And a lot of them that are on my marriage list drink alcoholic beverages, like Gerard Butler. And, whenever he has the guys on my, over to his house, they usually have some drinks there. However, I've told my men this, and believe me, I'm not really into the marriage list, but I'm just mentioning, some of them so that you can see that we are very, should I say, unorthodox in our Christian practice. We don't really go by set rules and regulations. This is my policy at Church of Gail. I said at our church, the number one criterion is you have to be a genuine born-again Christian. That means you have to have said the prayer, to admit you're a sinner, and that only Jesus' blood that he shed on the cross and his death on the cross is the payment for your sins, and you're not trusting in anything else. And as far as how you live out your Christian life, like whether you drink or smoke and all that stuff, I don't go into that area. I don't legislate to my men or to the members of our church how they should practice out their Christianity. The only area where I legislate is in the areas where the Bible is clear, black and white on the subject. Like, do not commit adultery. You said, you're committing adultery. Yeah, but I've only had sex with my ex-husband. And, to be honest with you, this is kind of hard to explain. But I do believe that we are going into the tribulation period, and that Brent and I are like transition Christians to help transition believers from the church age to the tribulation age. In the next dispensation where God deals with the world, which is going to be the tribulation age, the rules are going to change. For one thing, in this dispensation in the church age, you're saved by grace through faith and nothing else. No works. For by grace are you saved through faith, and that not of yourselves. It is the gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. In the next dispensation, you're going to have to earn your salvation if you want to go to heaven. You have to have faith in Jesus. Plus, you got to keep the 10 Commandments. In the book of Revelation, it says they keep the commandments of God, the 10 Commandments. So you got to keep the 10 Commandments. You can't take the mark of the beast. This is works. And you have to have faith in Jesus to be saved in the tribulation. And in the tribulation, you can lose your salvation. If you take the mark of the beast, you lose your salvation. And also the laws for marriage are going to change then. Under the law, for certain individuals, God didn't mind if they had more than one spouse. Look at King David and Solomon. If you'll notice with King David, God allowed David to have more than one wife, and it was not considered adultery at that time. And I asked Jesus about this. I said, Jesus, don't you have a problem with me having all of these men on my marriage list? Isn't this like adultery? And Jesus said, well, King David had more than one wife, and it was okay with me. I said, well, but what about me? He said, same with you. You're just like your ancestor David. So, but yet when he went to bed with Bathsheba, God considered that adultery. You might say, well, God seems rather inconsistent. No, I'm getting to learn Jesus a little better. It's not so much that he's inconsistent. He's just so far above us, we just can't reach his intellect and the way he approaches things. For instance, Jesus told me when I first got unemployed, he said, if you don't find a job within 3 weeks, you'll never get a job. And looking back, and I asked Jesus about that. I said, Jesus, I've been doing my best. You can't get a job within 3 weeks. I mean, in this present economy. And I said, are you telling me now that I won't get a job? He says, no, you'll get a job, Gail. Jesus seems inconsistent. This is where he's like, you know how he spoke parables to his disciples? I'm thinking about this. I think this Jesus is being really clever on me, and I'm not going to go into detail right now, but he was telling the truth. Let's just put it this way. The 3 weeks is up, and I haven't gotten a job officially, okay? But I think I did get a job in that time. But I didn't know it. You say, what in the world are you talking about? I'm not going to go into this right now, but Jesus is being just really clever. But he doesn't want to go into this. So whenever I ask him about this, I say, Jesus, you said if I didn't get a job within 3 weeks that I'd never get a job. And then I'd be, like on the streets and stuff. And Jesus said, oh, I was just saying that, Gail, because you tend to slack off and, sometimes when you're unemployed and you don't look for work like you should. So I just said that to get you to move. That's what he told me. He said you tend to kind of fall off the horse when you get unemployed and you don't look for work like you should. But I think there was more than that involved there. There was you say, well, did you get a job? Not in the normal sense of the word, but I think I did get a job. You say, what? Well, I think towards the end of the 3 weeks, my future employer entered the picture, and they're already making negotiations with my men and with Jesus and all that. But I just don't know about it. In other words, I got a job, but the paycheck hasn't come in yet. So Jesus wasn't lying to me. See how clear? You say, oh, gee, that's got to be a fake Jesus. He wouldn't operate that well. Well, think about this, folks. When he first came here the first time, the Jewish nation had no idea that their great Messiah, this king they were looking for, was going to die on the cross. They expected him to come in and be this great and almighty king and conquer all their enemies and set up a great Jewish kingdom, which is what the Old Testament passages seem to indicate. So when he showed up and started saying that that if you kill this temple in 3 days, it'll come again. And we're looking at it like, what in the world is he talking about? Same principle, folks. That's how Jesus is. he knows the future, and he knows what's going to happen. So, anyways, I'm just saying this for those of you who say, well, that's a fake Jesus. No, he's being true to himself. He's speaking in parables. That's what he's doing. He's so far above us, it's going to make sense later. We're going to look back like 10 years from now, look back, and it's all going to make sense. All the stuff that seemed kind of inconsistent and not right, it'll all make sense. And back on Brent-Spiner. Brent-Spiner is kind of, Brent-Spiner, I believe, is a genius, just like I am. That's one reason we belong together. And he's a Christian, but he's kind of unorthodox. You see, and he might, I know he's trying to quit smoking, and I don't know if he's still smoking or not. I don't discuss that topic with him for a very simple reason. I believe in giving my man freedom, and I don't like to, even though I led him to Christ, it was not to change him. It was because I knew he needed Jesus, and I knew Jesus could help him with his problems. And Jesus has, but there was nothing about him I was trying to change. I don't change people. I let Jesus work on them. I let the Holy Spirit do his own work. All I do is tell them the truth, how to accept Jesus. How they live out their Christian life is between them and Jesus, and that's how we handle our church members. And that's how I've been handling Brent. So he may have some, he's a born-again Christian, but I'm the one who's discipled him. And I give my Brent a lot of freedom. A lot of freedom. I don't tell him how to practice or live out his Christianity. You say, well, he's saying he believes in horoscopes, or I think he's joking about that stuff, but maybe. And you just got to understand that I give him a lot of freedom, so I don't encourage him to come across as a stereotypical Christian. So he is a born-again Christian, but he's a new one. And some of his old ways of thinking might still be there. That's fine. So just letting you know. You say, well, some of the things he says, I don't think he's saved. Well, he just became a Christian. He's a new Christian. So a lot of his old habits and ways of thinking are still going to be there, okay? But I have seen a change in him. He's a lot happier than he was. Which is on to another subject. You're probably thinking, oh, that 1992 rape between he and Loree McBride, he should be so miserable after he went through that. He shouldn't be smiling as much. I mean, you must be lying about him. He just doesn't look like a man who's been through what you say he's been through, and like the way Loree raped him, which was quite devastating, by the way. Let's just put it this way. If I wasn't in his life, maybe you would see the misery in him that you would expect after having gone through that rape. But I happen to be a very great woman with my men. And what I can do, I have the power, because of the way I make love to them, I actually heal them with my lovemaking. And, with our brain-to-brain lovemaking, and also just with my letters and writings. Let's just put it this way. If it wasn't, I have made Brent the man he is today. And when you see him now, you're seeing a man who's been influenced by the love of his life. So I've made him into the man he is. That very often happens when you have a great love in your life. The lover, you become so much a part of each other that you, and Brent has made me, in large part, the woman that I am too. When I first started off with Brent, I was very, very private. And I had some rigid interpretations of my Christianity. And Brent has helped me to become, how should I say this? He's helped me to break away from the strictures that I put upon myself, and allowed me to feel free to open my mind up to all truths, and to not decide on courses of action based just on what I hear in a sermon in church or from a preacher. he's encouraged me to think for myself. So a lot of my Christian concepts today have mostly come about through independent thinking and independent interpretations of scriptures. A lot of them that I've gotten from just between me and Jesus, just from reading the Bible and from no human source. And Jesus has been showing me all sorts of things. So Brent has made me the woman that I am today. I'm a much stronger, creative, and courageous woman than I was in the early 1990s. Not that I was a bad woman back then, but I was very, very, very private back then. And he's kind of brought me out so that I'm more willing to reveal the inner recesses of my heart. And what I've done with Brent-Spiner is, I don't know if I'd say, I guess you could say I brought him out too, but mostly what I've done with him is I've just cured his loneliness. When I was writing him letters in the early 1990s, I believe the reason he fell in love with me is because he sensed that I really understood who he was at his very core. And let me tell you, he's not the kind of a guy who'd want to go public with his woman at Hollywood events. He's not that shallow. And that's how I know that it's impossible for him to love Loree McBride. Brent-Spiner became an actor not for the fame, not for the wealth. And by the way, he makes a lot less money than people think he makes. People believe that because he worked as a Star Trek The Next Generation actor that he's just multi-millionaire actor. He lives in a mansion. He drives around in a Mercedes-Benz. It isn't quite like that. He doesn't have the fame that he had back in the 1990s. And even back then, he wasn't making as much money as people thought he did. You forget about taxes and all and expenses of living in Southern California, expenses of being an actor, travel expenses. Right now, what he's doing is living off of savings, like interest off of his savings from his time in when he worked as an actor of Star Trek The Next Generation. But he's not really a rich celebrity anymore. So, and part of it's his own fault. And I like this about him. Let me tell you what you may say. It's his own fault. Yeah. He actually turns down some acting projects if he doesn't believe in the part. If he feels that the part is just something he can't get into or that he thinks is really stupid or shallow, he'll turn it down, even if he thinks he'll make a lot of money from it. A lot of people don't know this about him. And Loree McBride does not like this about him. And she's actually scolded him about this, Me, I'm the opposite. I say, yeah, I say, bravo, bravo. See, we understand each other. Loree McBride hangs around him. He's never been in love with her. That's because she and him, they're like night and day different. And he just discussed that on the Dave Rabbit radio interview. He was saying, my girlfriend, I call her that because I don't know what else to call her. That's exactly, almost word for word thing. He said that about her in 2008. He called her his girlfriend, not his wife. So I find it mighty strange that Jesuits can claim she's his wife, when in 2008 on the Dave Rabbit radio interview, he called her his girlfriend. He didn't even want to call her that. The problem was he made Dreamland about me. Basically, the whole storyline in Dreamland is like a summation of his relationship with me. And Loree McBride knew that, and she was threatened by Dreamland, so she probably said, "Get Brent, if you don't at least mention me in connection with your Dreamland, I'm going to go get your woman, that Gail, and I'm going to cause trouble for her." So that's probably why he mentioned her as his girlfriend in Dreamland. Other than that, he wouldn't have said, he didn't even call her his girlfriend. He just said he mentioned her and his son. You say, well, what about his son? Let's just put it this way, and I don't have time to go into this on this tape. The child that she claims is his, okay? She conceived that using artificial insemination with stolen semen. he's never had willing and knowing sexual intercourse with her. Any sex she's gotten with Brent has been through rape or mind control. Anyways, well, let's just put it this way. Even if you want to believe that she's had legitimate sex with him, when I say legitimate, I mean that willing and knowing, and where he wasn't under mind control or drugged out because she drug raped him or anything like that, you see two totally different people here. Brent-Spiner is a private, genius guy. He takes parts in Hollywood not because of fame or fortune, but because it's a part he believes in that he could get into. Whereas Loree McBride is a fame-obsessed Hollywood glamour girl type who likes the spotlights. She likes being in public with her star and showing him off like he's her fur coat. She's a shallow, vain, vulgar woman, whereas Brent is a deep, humble, and private with his love life type of a guy. Okay? So you got two totally different people here. You got a woman who loves the limelight, who likes to appear in public with her celebrity and act like the celebrity actress type, you know. But Brent's not into that at all, man. He's a very private, deep, genius guy and wants a woman who understands that side of him. He actually turns down roles that he doesn't believe in, even if he thinks it's going to give him like an Arnold Schwarzenegger type of a role. If he doesn't believe in it, he won't do it. And you know what? I say, bravo, Brent. Because I'm the same way. I'm an artist, but I refuse to write about stuff. I write, I act. I used to sing. So I'm a true artist just like he is. I say, bravo, bravo. I applaud him. I say, that's it, Brent. Don't take a role just for money or fame. It's got to be something you believe in. Whereas Loree McBride, she says, why would you turn that down? You're going to lose your fame. She judges a person's worth by their wealth and their fame. I judge a person's worth by who they are on the inside and by their courage to their convictions and by the depth of their commitment to their lover. And that's how Brent judges worth. Loree McBride has stars in her eyes. She's a star-struck Hollywood glamour girl who actually drug rapes. So she's obsessed with stardom, man. She likes to appear at all these public functions with Brent. He's not into that. These people are totally incompatible. That should tell you something right there. It's impossible for him to love Loree McBride because they're so different from each other. Whereas me and him, we have the exact same approach on just about everything. Brent and I are made for each other, whereas Loree McBride and Brent-Spiner are about as different as night and day. And that's who Brent-Spiner is, and how I know he's not married to her. He would never marry to her. They have absolutely nothing in common. Their approach to everything is different. He likes to be private about his love like she likes to. You might say, well, she's private. Not really. Have you noticed how she's always got to appear in public functions with him, or she used to? Brent's not into that. And by the way, all those photos are fake anyways. These photos where Brent appeared with Loree at all these functions, they fused his picture and her picture together, and then they changed the expressions to make him look like a shallow playboy type who likes appearing in public with a Hollywood glamour girl. That isn't Brent-Spiner at all. And that's how I know that the guy was a fake. You know, when they asked that Brent-Spiner clone this question, they said, hey, he goes, then he came back with this answer. He said, I just want to let you know that nobody knows about this except you and me. Brent would never answer like that. That made that clone come across like some sort of stuck-up guy who thought he was so much hotter than me because he's a big Hollywood star and he's famous and I'm not. And like he was sticking up his nose at me saying, I'm a hot Hollywood hunk. And you know, it's just cool between me and you, but we know that nobody's ever heard of this nobody Gail Cord Schuler. So I'm this hot Hollywood hunk and, you know, just want to let you know I would never be interested in that nobody Gail Cord. That isn't Brent-Spiner, folks. Brent-Spiner's not a a snobby, arrogant actor, like this clone is. And he wouldn't look down on me for not having his level of fame or money. That's the number one. As soon as he talked like that, I said, that is not Brent. Brent is humble. His clone is proud. Brent wants a woman with depth and intelligence. His clone wants the Hollywood glitter girl. Brent is genius intelligence, and he likes having a woman with genius intelligence. The clone, I'm not sure what his intelligence is, but he sure doesn't have an intelligent woman for a partner, that's for sure. Okay, I've covered a lot, but I have to deal with a lot of Jesuit garbage, and I'm trying to correct a lot of their lies.